co-founded the Decriminalized Nature group in New York, and previously was on the board of the Hudson Valley Psychedelic Society, and also started a Jewish nonprofit called Darkei Refuah, through which I've been doing different work, but also advocacy towards, towards working on different policy, different paths of policy change. So what I've been discussing, and particularly this week had a meeting with Alex about this, who's here on the Zoom. But we've been discussing now that we've got this bill introduced, and now I guess 3 bills up, and are developing a strategy around trying to align around what is the best and most direct path to the best law change in this case we're talking about changing laws on the state level, and to try to start building more of a coalition and a group that's working on the actions around that. So really a lot of it is basic stuff. Pretty much what we want to start doing is having a monthly meeting that would include representatives of different groups, including, of course, and especially this one, in which we actually craft the exact outreach points. We have done some kind of like forum emails in the past. We can edit and update those. And actually, while within this meeting, start reaching out to our individual legislators, and set a template where also people can share within the groups and communities that they're in, how other people can also reach out to and influence their legislators on this bill and on any other possibilities that open up towards policy change in New York. So as Avery kind of mentioned, I am co-organizing a little retreat for a Jewish holiday called Shavuot that starts tonight. So I'm only able to be on for a few minutes, but hopefully the idea is pretty clear, and I guess Alex can also be here to talk about it, and perhaps we can start with, if there's folks at this meeting that would be interested in getting involved in that kind of I guess we'd be calling it an action group, although we already are the action still have been the action committee, but we can figure out how we're defining it, and hopefully we can all work together to really push through.
And Aaron, I was thinking this would be more like a local action group. Like I see NYMHA as a broader New York umbrella. And I think what we need to do is create the nodes in each municipality that can rattle the sabers with those local lawmakers. And I did talk to Pat Burke. He stopped by the farm last week before session ended, about doing something in Buffalo. And he was like, well, even if we could just meet with the Buffalo city representatives, that would be something too, because if we could, make some noise in New York City, make some noise in Buffalo, make some noise in Utica and Syracuse and Cornell or Ithaca or whatever, then similar to what is happening in Massachusetts, where they've decriminalized in, I think, 7 cities now, I think that could help make the lawmakers, the state representatives, see that their municipalities are making change. And so that's I think was what's going to be critical to this next phase of action.
Yeah, and thank you, Avery. That was 2 points that we discussed also about this week that I guess I just kind of rushed over, being in a rush, but also the local element, and also myself, Alex, and some others, Pammy, are based in New York City. And so the opportunity to reach out to lawmakers there, and whatever other opportunities there are for impact, and maybe impact on a press level, is definitely what we want to activate. And then just as Avery said, both when it comes to state legislators, hearing from their local constituents, and local legislators, hearing from their from people in the areas, there could be multiple paths taken at the same time that are complementary and that support each other towards meaningful policy change. And I should add that there's a group that's been coming together to kind of respark the Decriminalized Nature group in New York, which would likely be kind of similar, like a state operate as like Decrim Nature New York on a state level, and allow for local chapters, and to support people that are with whatever resources possible, that are willing and able to get to connect to their local council or town board, and advocate for for policy change, at least around psilocybin and other naturally occurring entheogens.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you so much, Aaron, and good luck with your celebrations.
Thank you. Yeah, I'll stick around for the next several minutes at least. Might jump off video soon, but I'll stick around as long as I can.
Okay, and I mean, I'm blowing my agenda all to bits, but I want to give Allison the floor because she is here and she has young children and she will have to do bedtime with them. So Allison, please take it over.
Thank you. So I think I'm here to, is my head in the screen? I can't see, I'm on my iPad. Go down here.
You're great. It's great now.
Thank you. So I think I'm here to just give a basic overview of A10375, which is being called the psilocybin permit bill. Or I think one publication called it the secret other thing, which is pretty great. Meaning it's not, medical, it's not whatever Oregon is, it's not flat out Colorado free for all to some degree, but it's some other thing. And what that means is, there have been a lot of approaches over the last few years of how a state legal regulated model would look. And this is kind of an interesting hybrid. And what it does, it has three prongs. It regulates the user. It's a user permit, which has been advocated for over the years in a variety of ways. I think we can credit Leary and Doblin. I know Bob Jesse brought it up to me many years ago. But it would basically be that a person who could go through a health screening, meant to be online and very accessible, and is able to ensure they don't have a particular health condition that significantly increases their health risks, which are called contraindications, or is taking a substance that is contraindicated with psilocybin, meaning may cause significant injury or harm. They then get to take an educational course, and this educational course won't exceed 5 hours, I think is what we said, and would teach, basic risk reduction information about psilocybin and its use and the options available through the programs in this bill, which I'm about to explain as the other two prongs. But if you then take a test, and that test can be taken as many times as you want until you pass, you then get your permit. So it's not meant to deter anyone, but just really educate someone and make sure they understand it before they are consuming psilocybin in the ways permitted under the bill. And those ways are pretty much any way you want, as long as it's not in public and harming anyone. It's a lot like alcohol, even though, people do what they do on alcohol. So then the other idea is, someone could, in this way, unlike Oregon, where you have to go and take a very large amount because you have one shot and it's $3,500, instead, someone could test out how their body feels on smaller amounts of psilocybin in their home where they feel safe. They could also take larger doses as they get more comfortable. And in any of those scenarios, they can cultivate the mushrooms themselves or buy it from a licensed cultivator. And they could hire a support services provider. So kind of like a facilitator in Oregon, but much lower threshold for training. So not a $10,000 training model, but a much, I think we maxed out, it was $1,500 max for this course. And it's just to teach someone to know what is the difference between an adverse event and so basically a health emergency, often called adverse event, or just process with mushrooms. But what's important about these support service providers is they are basically not licensed, but certified. And there is a board that is an ethical board, similar to your medical licensing board, that would receive complaints and be able to oversee the operations and training and the ethical provision of services of these providers. And I think that's really positive. What I know is there are many, many trip sitters out there, and there aren't a lot of standards of care that are, sort of a norm. There isn't a board to ensure they're behaving ethically, and this is sort of achieving that with a low threshold to still continue being a trip sitter, if that's what you are. be able to say you have your certification and be able to call emergency services without fear of criminal prosecution, which is a huge benefit in this space. And then what is really amazing is the continuity of care that's achieved, which is that you could see your doctor, they can help you with your screening. You can see your therapist and talk to them about the fact that you're going to take psilocybin. You can then have your therapist and your support service provider communicate with each other, both at the beginning and the end, and possibly even that therapist may be your support service provider, there to provide those support services, but not directive therapeutic services. That would have to be determined by the medical board, which they are encouraged to do in the bill, but the bill does not do itself. And then the last part is the option of purchasing mushrooms that contain psilocybin from a licensed cultivator. They do have certain requirements about the cleanliness of the grow space, testing for potency, labeling and disclosures. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So I think there was like a max amount of 2 ounces at each purchase, which seemed very high, or it was 1, I can't remember, but it was a pretty lenient maximum. So, but you could also, like we said, cultivate your own, share. So sharing is permitted. That's very similar to Colorado. And yeah, so I think those were the 3 sort of mechanisms of the bill. And I think that's probably the most important stuff. Oh, I guess the last thing is to clarify, this is a non-medical bill. There is no therapy being authorized here, and it is not intended to treat a health condition. However, there is a reporting mechanism that would allow someone to report that there are benefits to their health conditions, any kind of indication that they have. If it did benefit from their use of psilocybin, that data is then optionally provided to the reporting system. But what's really cool about that is we wrote that a couple months ago. And then recently I found out that the DEA and HHS and all of those and FDA, they had looked at data from state medical models with cannabis to show that clearly there was a medical use for cannabis. And that data was significant in their decision to reschedule to a Schedule 3. So that was really exciting. And we kind of accidentally created that for psilocybin, which is really neat because we do see psilocybin as a synthetic going through FDA approval at this time, which may mean rescheduling of just the synthetic, not the entire class of psilocybin. Whereas if they can look at data using psilocybin naturally occurring, the whole class may be rescheduled in the future. Okay, I think that's most of the things I wanted to say. Obviously, I'm excited about a lot of parts of the bill, but I think that's the crux of it. I should probably, yeah.
So so who is the group that we're meeting with next Monday? Is that something we can talk about?
I don't know who they are. It is a group that wants to talk about permit models generally, because some people have seen that as a possibility in the medical model, sort of like medical cannabis. So there is like a medical condition that you need. It's qualifying for you to have the permit, which we took out of our bill. So that will be interesting to talk about, sort of the varieties of a permit model. But I do not know who they are. Like,
okay, I was because it wasn't clear to me either. Okay, great.
I did have a conversation last week with people who were saying we should create a coalition. I was just looking it up in my notes. That the Microdosing Collective was very excited about our bill and wanted to meet with us. So that's coming up. And, obviously this is a perfect model for someone with cluster headaches who needs to sort of take it on a regimented protocol developed not within the medical model, not within the medical world, but by people experimenting naturalistically. So, can't do that in Oregon.
Right. Fantastic. Yeah, and that's what, and we, the bill A10375 just has exclusionary medical conditions that would prevent you from having the permit. That's the angle that we took.
Correct. We did not put them in now because there are new studies coming out like every week, and we figured we'd know a lot more in a year when this actually gets into the regulations. So we just suggested that would be a possibility.
Cool.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Does anyone have any questions for Allison real quick before she goes?
I actually do have a quick question. Oh, you go first.
There is a bill. Oh, but I have it. Okay, sorry. Go ahead.
My quick question was just about for licensed therapists. So the language wrapped around being a practitioner who is sitting with a client is very gray zone, sort of like depending on the powers that be, they might say it's going against licensure. And so there's that fear of losing certification. So you did mention that perhaps in this bill, there's sort of language to help protect against that. So I was just curious if you could just speak about that a little bit more.
Yeah, we are very explicit that someone who is licensed by the state for a profession, so like a therapist, they cannot be negatively impacted. Their licensure is protected in being basically a trip sitter, a support service provider. And that we say, you know, we'd love to see it where maybe it's able to be provided in conjunction with those professional services, and encourage the state licensing board to figure that out, because each, you know, licensing board has their own ideas of what scope of practice is. But it is similar to in Oregon, where we're saying basically, you know, you're doing this one thing, you're wearing your trip sitter support services hat, and then you leave and now you're your therapist hat again.
Right. Like for integration purposes, I could see that, and even preamble and preparation coming up to the event. So that's amazing. Thank you.
What's nice about it is because the practice of medicine or any of these professional services is regulated at state level, by making it legal in the state, there really shouldn't be a problem in any of these state licensing boards' opinions, I would expect, hopefully,
I would expect
in somebody providing this legal service, right? Whereas if you have DEA licensure for prescription, for example, you may have a problem because they expect you to follow federal laws, which this is in conflict with.
Right. Thank you so much. You explained that wonderfully.
Okay. I'm going to go read something much more fun to a 7-year-old. Okay.
Awesome. Thanks, Allison.
Can I just take a minute to explain what's going to happen to the bill?
Sure. Yeah. Take it over, Corinne.
So the bill was introduced on May 21st and the legislative session ended on Friday. So the bill dies basically and will have to be reintroduced again. And I think our role is going to be to help educate lawmakers and get sponsors to sign on in support of the bill. We, for a long time, have said that we would support any bill that allows for access to psilocybin. So there are 4 bills currently pending that will need to be reintroduced again in January. So we should talk maybe at an upcoming meeting about a lobby day in January.
Yeah.
And all of that stuff.
Well, and part of what I know Aaron breezed through what he was thinking very fast, but when we talked, I wanted to take this structure of meeting, and I love having guest speakers who can give some insight into different, you know, ways that people are interacting with these substances. But if we alternate and have like a shorter kind of, hey, here we're all together on this virtual platform, but say there's a node in Buffalo and there's a node in Manhattan and a node in Brooklyn, and they, you know, after a half hour of us large grouping, then break out into their own local action group. And so that way, you know, we have this format where we're presenting some broader ideas, and here are the things that we all did, together. But then, oh, Brian's just working in Kingston, Cornelia's just handling Wappingers Falls, or whatever. Like, and then so they handle those, maybe 2 or 3 people, because really that's it. It only takes a couple people to really create movement, because if the lawmakers see that there is interest and we present to them, because I don't know if you all know, geez, was this 2 years ago that we presented to Troy now? So Aaron and Corinne, you both worked on that referendum thing. And then we presented to the Troy City Council, but it was an election year. And so they were like, this is a great idea and we like all this, but yeah, we have to wait. So, obviously timing is important, but I think now with 2 more years of rattling our sabers and talking to people under our belt, and I now, in my capacity and talking to a variety of people at the city level and county level, they all know that we have been involved in this and that we have been, why we've been pushing for access. And they are sometimes actively asking me how things are going. And so I think that, it's ripe to try here in Troy again. I would love to see if we can get another, presentation to the current city council. I would love to try in Albany. Like, I don't like, we really haven't tried the city of Albany at all. And, I mean, obviously we're just here in Troy and we have boots on the ground in Albany, so that we can say there are people in that county that are interested. But, if you are in whatever municipality you're in anywhere in New York State, if you, that's one of the things I want to put on our NYMHA website, is that referendum, so that people can go just to it and be like, oh, here, copy paste, boom, I'm gonna like get a group together and we're gonna go present it to my local neighborhood council, like whatever, if it's just the Williamsburg, I don't know, does Williamsburg have its own little like but like, I think it really is action. We has to start small, and if we can get, one marble rolling somewhere, that's how we create a landslide. Ithaca, yeah, who knows? Ithaca is gorgeous, it's gorgeous out there. Cornell, I feel like university towns, there's a lot of interest, because especially where there's people doing research on, harm prevention and on, societal impact of these different substances, and acknowledging, not from a medical perspective, but that people seem to recover from addictions after they've used substances that promote neuroplasticity much easier than without. Maybe we can get some more data points collected, and like Allison said, actually start building groundwork for future rescheduling. And that's something that I'm part of the Committee of Medicinal Mushrooms for the North American Mycological Association, and we're creating a worldwide database on medicinal mushrooms, and it's going to be self-reporting. So, if Wendy, you took turkey tail and it helped you with your digestion or whatever, you can go on and be like, hey, I took this much turkey tail every day for this amount of time, and then I had these results, so that it's not a scientific study, but it's a subjective, like here is data that's being collected. And right now, there is a poison control database that is very much similar, but it's the data is entered only by a select few people that are responding to incidents across the country. So this would be more open source to like, oh, I started taking lion's mane and my knee pain went away, or like my necropathy or whatever, So it's like, this would be a resource for people to go to say, oh, like, it's not WebMD, but it's kind of subjective, so there would be that disclaimer. It's like, well, these are just results of individuals. But I think it would help, you know, build data for proving out the efficacy of all these different mushrooms. Because right now, when I quote mushrooms properties and how they assist people, I always disclose these statements not approved by the FDA. I don't know that the FDA would actually ever approve lion's mane as a treatment, but like, you know, if several thousand people all took it and had the same result or similar results, that too is saying something. So building that for psilocybin in particular would be incredible. Okay, did we, where are we? I feel like we just digressed a little bit.
I think you didn't even start the meeting.
Okay, welcome. All right. Okay, cool. That was, we jumped in and yeah. And Pammy is here, yay. Okay, so yes, New Yorkers for Mental Health Alternatives with Erin kind of flashing and disappearing. We talked about, I mean, when we formed the New York Psilocybin Action Committee, you know, it was a group to create movement and create change. And we adopted New Yorkers for Mental Health Alternatives because it was a nonprofit that was sitting in limbo and wasn't doing anything. And so you know, there are many groups who gather to talk about integration and gather to talk about, you know, growing, and who gather to talk about, you know, their connection to things on different substances, but primarily this group is supposed to be action oriented, and that's why we're really focusing on creating opportunities to engage with lawmakers. So Pammy is my co-president. You guys see her here in the center of the screen. She's down in Brooklyn. Or actually, where did you move to, Pammy? Are you still in Brooklyn?
Yeah, I'm still in
Okay.
Brooklyn, just a little closer to JFK, so
Okay.
far east.
Cool. So with a president for New Yorkers for Mental Health Alternatives in the city and a president up here, you know, we can duly activate people to, you know, work to create change. And then Erin is in Manhattan, and Dennis Kitchen, who's not on right now, but there's also the Psychedelic Society of Western New York, which is more like Syracuse, Rochester area. And, you know, we really want to activate these people to, you know, people all across the state to start, you know, even just gathering in 1s and 2s and 3s, you know, to talk about what can happen. So we talked about doing a screening and panel. I don't see anyone from Reconsider on. A screening and panel with the Reconsider folks down in Brooklyn. Colin Pugh, who's the executive director for the Brooklyn Psychedelic Society, ran out of capacity. And so we're talking about doing it in the early fall. And Pat Burke knows Ani DeFranco, and she has a performance space in Buffalo. And so he's trying to work with her to get a couple dates where we could do something out in Buffalo. And, you know, at each of these locations, we want to invite the local municipality, but also, you know, the state representative lawmakers that oversee those spaces too. So we can show to them concretely that their constituents are involved and do care about this issue. And Reconsider is done with the film that they made featuring there's the stories of transformation featuring New Yorkers for Mental Health Alternatives. I think Stephen Apcom, their executive director guy, he has been back and forth to Israel filming a documentary, and he just hasn't put a final stamp of approval on it, which is what we're waiting for. But hopefully we can, you know, show that too as part of these panel things that we're moving towards. And like Corinne said, the New York legislation session ended last Friday, right? Or 2 Fridays ago. This past Friday. So basically any bill that didn't pass, which is all of the bills that include psilocybin, have to be reintroduced. So we were really excited that Amy Paulin, who is the chair of the health committee for the assembly, She is the lead sponsor on our bill, and she has some vested interest in getting this passed. And she is really ready to spread some more information, educate other lawmakers about why it's important that we do create some access system. And Linda Rosenthal, who proposed the decrim bill, she is still, going to re-propose that. And Pat Burke does have both of his bills that are going to go back into session as well. So yeah, it's going to be an exciting year next year. And I feel like we need to do a lot of prep work between now and then to really educate the lawmakers about why it's important. And so maybe, like you said, a lobby day early on in the session, if that's something that we can generate, would be useful.
Do we want to reserve a space like we did last time?
I think so. I mean, Alex, you came up, and I feel like we could, fill all those tables again easily.
So 10 to 12 tables.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
January.
I think if we could do it earlier, I think it would be better.
Avery, a question. Does decriminalized nature New York have any real presence? Were they part of your lobbying this past year, or?
So Aaron Ganuth, who spoke a few minutes ago,
You just mentioned that the group briefly, yeah.
right. So he is one of the ones that actually got it off the ground in New York, but I don't think he maintained action with it. Alex, you may know more.
Based off of my last conversation with him, he's looking to like re-engage the group and start some meetings again in the upcoming weeks.
I mean, they've been important in other states for sure. Having support, their support would be great if they had a presence, in New York State or the city even.
Yeah.
I think we're gonna it's gonna get built back up, and we are gonna focus on some stuff in the city and see if we can employ some tactics, such as engaging with like the Brooklyn district attorney and other stuff at the city level.
Yeah, and I know Noah Potter has provided me a list of people to contact in the city, and I'll pass that on to you and Aaron, or if Noah didn't pass it on, but it includes all of the city council members, the DAs that are active down there, and basically everyone to whom we should be presenting why it's important that people get access to this, and our criminalization is ended. So that's that. Yeah.
So that's where I got a little confused too, because you did talk about decriminalization in various municipalities as kind of an interim objective also. So backing both the bill, the broader bills, and local decriminalization. I think that's an excellent idea. And if we could make some progress here in New York City, I mean, just to even get it as a topic of discussion would be important.
Yeah, and in talking to Colin, we had planned out a panel at the Brooklyn Library with the Reconsider folk, and he mentioned private conversations that he's had with council members and other lawmakers down there that who are already very open to the idea. And I mean, if we can just get some FaceTime with like Joe McKay and Ethan Abend, and really pitch why it's necessary that we stop criminalizing people, I really don't think it's going to be that challenging to do something.
Right, and if we tie it with, hey, look, let's decriminalize now while we are working on this broader structure, which is going to take a little bit of time. Even if once it passes, it's going to take 2 years to shake out into something.
Right. Yeah.
So let's decriminalize now and yeah, I like that approach.
Yeah, because ultimately all of the bills that are proposed create access in different ways. And for people who want to see a therapist, decriminalizing doesn't go far enough because the therapist, psychiatrist, psychologist, they're still at risk of losing their license if we don't create a system that legitimizes their practice in psychedelic assisted therapy. So that's why, you know, decrim is great, but it doesn't really help people. It just stops most arrests.
Right, stops the harassment, yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so let's see. So yeah, what is the name of the bill? Well, but there's another.
No, it doesn't name it there, but Allison said we're calling it the psilocybin permit bill.
Well, there is like this
It's
line,
just a short title. It's not.
the Regulated Health Access and Support Services for Psilocybin Act.
Oh, that's possible. So
Yeah.
we need a shorter.
Yeah, yeah. Well, can we acronym it? So yeah, everybody say that. We're gonna pass. Rolls off the tongue. Rolls off the tongue. So
Sounds like Klingon.
yeah. Give me my blood cake. So I this bill A10-375, just like all New York State bills, is available if you go to the New York State legislative .gov. What is it? Bill tracker or something?
nyassembly.gov.
nyassembly.gov, and just put in that bill number, and all of this text will come up. So you will be able to read all of it. There's also a box you can check that just gives you the summary. So you can just read the summary or just the talking points. So if you are interested in reading all of the text, it is available.
I just popped it in the chat too for those on Zoom. You can
Oh,
snag.
great. Thank you. Okay, so the only other, a couple other older things. So the talking points cheat sheet that I talked about putting into Chat GPT. Is there anyone that wants to play around with that, to creating some kind of help for people telling their parents why they're using psilocybin to manage their concerns? Yeah, cool. Yeah, I'm thinking if we can just get it down to like some bullet points, you know, that we can have on our website that is like, you know, here's how to talk to your friends and family. Through my North American Mycological Society or Association, whatever one it is, I just finished an article on cluster buster or cluster heads across the continent. And so I interviewed someone in Canada, someone in California, and someone in Mexico. And one of the questions that I asked is, how did you tell your friends and family that you were using psilocybin to manage your pain? And, you know, it really, obviously people's responses vary depending on their, you know, cultural and familial relationships, but there's some got support and some were very ridiculed because, you know, it's not a legitimate way to take medicine. Yes, Sativa.
If she needs any, I don't know your pronouns, but if you need any help with that, I'm willing to assist. I mean, I've talked to parents about their kids being transferred like 14 years, so I think I know how to talk to parents about difficult things. So if she would like to exchange contact information, we would help.
Awesome. Yeah, I will connect you guys. Cool. Okay, great. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So yeah, Corinne, did we connect with Amy Pollin's office about potentially being a guest speaker? Not
They
yet.
haven't given me a date yet. I asked them July, August, or September.
Okay, cool. So we don't, our next meeting is July 9th. So we don't have a guest speaker lined up quite yet. So if anyone has any ideas, please shoot me a message. We can see who you would like to hear from, who we should be talking to. I know Taylor didn't join, but Pammy, maybe you, Taylor, and I can sit down about adding a couple pages to the website that kind of showcases more of our media and gets those like document things in a nicer format. Because I put like a letter up and it just looks ugly. It just doesn't look, you guys make such stuff much nicer.
Yeah, we can probably set something up for maybe early next week if that's available for you.
Cool. Yeah, cool. And I mean, the new business I kind of wanted to mention is has anyone followed the MDMA news? And there was a panel on suggesting to the FDA whether MDMA should be approved by MAPS, and they denied it. Because there were questions about the what is it, placebo, and people not, the methodology of everything. And really, I've read some articles and I've heard some things, and it feels like it's not necessarily a step in the right direction. But one of the things that an article I read pointed out is that they were designing treatment around the idea that it would cost somewhere about $25,000 to treat someone with MDMA. And I can only hope that that is one of the reasons they did not suggest that that was a good idea, and maybe to reevaluate cost in that, because insurance is not going to cover it. And if this is going to be access for people who have not been helped by traditional means, who is going to have $25,000 in their pocket that can just spend it on something as frivolous as healing? That seems wholly inappropriate. And after reading that, I was somewhat much happier that it kind of got denied, because that needs to be revisited for sure. We talked about the other call. Yeah, that was pretty much everything I had. Did anyone have anything else you want to add? Any fun things in your world that you want to share? Cool.
We'd like to.
I was gonna say sativa, agape. Yeah.
Should we go up there?
Sure. Yeah. Come on up.
Hello, everybody. My name is Agapi, and this is Sativa. And I'm a physician. For those of you who don't know me, I trained in anesthesia a long time ago, and then I switched to hospice and palliative medicine after following a deep calling for end-of-life work. And I became interested in psychedelics and studied them during my fellowship in Ohio in 2021. And I studied the research and the review of the existing data on the efficacy of especially psilocybin for the existential distress at the end of life. And I also had an interest in ketamine. And so I studied all the research that there was to study on ketamine. And long story short, I became a hospice medical director for the past 2 years. And then I recently left hospice full time to pursue, I pursued advanced psychedelic training as well this past year. So I did an 8-month-long training to basically learn how to be with patients that are under ketamine, psilocybin, MDMA specifically. And I did that because I wanted to work with ketamine right now, because ketamine is the only legal psychedelic at this time. But I do have an interest in psilocybin. Obviously, that's why I'm here also in these meetings every month. So I collaborate with Woodstock Therapy Center at this time since March, actually. And I'm one of their prescribers and potentially facilitators if they need one extra facilitator. And as of 2 weeks ago, I found Sativa, who also is trained in ketamine assisted therapy in this area, with the goal to open up a clinic here in Troy, a physical location where we can bring in patients who are in need of ketamine assisted therapy. And I will be the person that would medically evaluate for them, clear them for therapy, and then we would co-facilitate, and then Sativa would obviously do therapy before and after the ketamine sessions as well. So we have a physical space already. We have created a name together, which is going to be called Entheon, which I thought of, and it just came to me, which is not like an unusual thing for me to think of that. And we are just beyond excited. It's kind of surreal still that this is actually happening. I'm humbled by the fact that I have been privileged as a human to be in a space, to be in a privileged state, to be able to do this for people. I don't take it for granted. The things that I have been given in life, the opportunities. Yeah, I'm getting emotional because it is big. It is big, and I didn't do it alone. And so I think about all the people that helped me, along the way. I came here as an immigrant when I was 12, and my parents really didn't have anything. And I just had this passion about biology in 10th grade. I knew that I was gonna study biology in college. And I remember being fascinated that fungi were not plants. That was one of my earliest memories of like my passion for science. And I thought about, I'm definitely gonna go to medical school and save the world. That's literally what I told myself in my head. So I guess this is my adult way of trying to, help as many people as I can, given that I'm in this privileged place in life. So yeah, I'll interrupt you.
Okay, so I'm Sativa Ananda. I'm not gonna tell you my last name yet because it ruins it all. It's Bigelow. It doesn't fit the rest of the name. But yeah, I've been a psychotherapist for I think 16 years now. I started off in my early 20s. My dad gave me the name of Sativa, and when I was a teenager, when people would realize I was named after cannabis, they would be like, oh my gosh, dad's pothead, right? And now, and he used to always say, if they don't hire you because your name's Sativa, then you shouldn't work for them. So now I'm in a place where Sativa is legal. It also means satisfaction, East India, but it used to be kind of like hidden. So now people will always be like, oh, that's so cool, like everywhere I go. And I'm like, oh, dad. but yes, we found each other through Avery, which was lovely, and our business has been moving along quickly. My history is in working with the LGBT community, and then I did a year of clinical work with ketamine assisted infusion therapy. So I'm looking forward to the future of adding more.
Yeah, we could say more.
Yeah.
So our plans to do lozenges, oral ketamine, as well as injectable. I do not plan to do infusions or intranasal, which is actually the only FDA approved method of administering ketamine for the mental health indications. But we want to create a space where people come and know that there are two humans that are going to sit with them during the entire time that they are having this very vulnerable state. And it's going to be as healing as possible next to them doing it with a buddy at home, let's say, or in nature. We're going to take the time to evaluate every human, in every possible way, to make sure that they're not going to leave our space after a ketamine session with no one to follow up with them. So we're going to make sure that they have been seen by a therapist in the past, and that they have tried some form of therapy. They're not just walking in and saying, oh, I'm depressed, can I have some ketamine? So we're gonna make sure that they are carefully evaluated for, medical contraindications as well. Because I have, experience with ketamine from the anesthesiology perspective, as well as from the hospice and palliative perspective, and have had my own journeys. So I know what it means to have that relationship with the molecule itself, so that I can direct people, how to receive it, but also educate them and encourage them to be a part of the decision-making as to how they want to receive it, and, and really work with them with their intentions from beginning to end. So it's not just us saying, here, let me sit down, let me give you some ketamine. It's making sure that the person is involved in their own healing, because we're not the healers. We are just the catalyst and the container that contains the love and the space for them to feel safe. And in creating that space, I think you are enabling that human to feel safe enough, and to just relax and let the medicine work within their own natural healing ability and intelligence.
Recently, there was a really nice article about your business, Albany Times Union newspaper.
On my business?
It included a number of pictures and explained somewhat about what you're going to be doing.
I was in the Times Union, but it was for the previous location I worked at. It was at Ketamine, Albany Ketamine. So we're creating a different space in Troy. It's a little bit more, it's a lot more holistic, but that's where I had previously worked.
Well, this article was about your Troy location. Yeah.
When was this?
Albany Times Union. This was just about over the weekend.
Oh, really? I did not see that. Did anybody see that? Wow, this travels fast.
Pictures?
Yeah, I would like to see that.
Pictures of the physical, the place where you're going to run your business.
Maybe they just went right to your Facebook page.
Yeah, maybe, but there's no pictures of any location.
Unless there's another location.
Well, you showed you with the keys. You showed some pictures.
Oh, maybe.
Oh,
they stole that.
Facebook
I guess it's public. Yeah.
Oh.
Who knows? Okay, we're famous
All
already.
right.
I didn't even know it.
High five.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. So, does anyone have any questions?
How does the payment work for it? Like, does insurance cover it, or is it just?
I think that's definitely a future goal, especially for me with the clinical part of it when it comes to providing therapy. But insurance paneling takes a while. So obviously you have to have an address first, which we just got. And then hopefully we'll do, like, I'm hoping to sign up for insurance panels, but like I said, usually insurance paneling takes a couple months. So, I mean, we're starting off with regular payment.
So for therapy, it's more likely for insurances to cover therapy part, but not the ketamine administration. So for my part, it's mostly out of pocket. So for the medical evaluation, your insurance may or may not cover it. I will just submit an invoice to the patient, and then they will be responsible for submitting that to their insurance. But for the actual ketamine administration for indications such as mental health disorders, it is not covered, unfortunately. Yeah. So over time, I think my hope is to also raise funds, create like fundraisers and events where people can donate for us to be able to give back to those patients that cannot afford as much or any. But upfront, starting off, we can't right away, do the slide scale, but we're hoping that within 6 months' time, maybe, hopefully, we'll have some ability to help the people that are not able to fully afford 100% of the cost.
Yeah.
How much money?
So it can vary depending on the way that you receive it. So if it's oral versus injection, the average. So the first time I see you, there's a fee that's going to be charged to you for the medical evaluation. But after that evaluation is done, you will not see that fee again. So each time, let's say you have 4 sessions, 4 ketamine sessions, it's only your first session that's gonna cost you anywhere from, let's say around $1,000, because we don't know how you're gonna receive it. But after that first session, it's gonna go down to maybe $700. It is not cheap. It's not cheap.
Previously, when I was able to start using insurance, like CDPHP would cover it for the therapeutic part, like
Yeah.
Blue Cross Blue Shield would cover it. Fidelis not cover it, unfortunately, but at least it would become like for the therapeutic piece, it would just become whatever copay you would have at a therapeutic session. So, I mean, that's one of my goals is to help reduce costs for people because I mean, I'm going to get reimbursed from the insurance companies at a higher rate than what like you'd be paying me anyway. So, I mean, my cost is for the therapeutic is 100 per hour. So that would include integration. The psychosocial is usually a 90-minute assessment, so that would be 150, and then during the treatment itself. So for every hour, it's basically $100 for me. But after the original psychosocial, you don't have to do a psychosocial again. Like I know you then.
Yeah.
Like so then it's more of the integration piece. So that would reduce costs as well. So it's more the largest costs are initially just like when you start.
Mhm. And we can eventually start doing group sessions so that each patient would pay a lot less than if they were to do it by themselves. That's another way to save money. If it is a group of people that can work well together and want to work in groups. So it's just one option that we're looking at for the future. But you know, getting started is hard, right? It's not, we don't have all this money sitting around that we can just give right away. I wish that was the case, but we are brand new. And this was a big transition for me to leave corporate, you know, medicine and take a big jump and risk a lot. And so I need to recover from that. So once I recover from that, I'll be able to help more people by having events that raise money and receive donations for this purpose exactly. And we'll have a joint account that will receive that money for that purpose only.
And I just want to add that if you look at prices of other organizations, like we're not higher than anybody else. I mean, the previous location I worked at, they charged, you know, $5.95 per infusion with no insurance kickback. So like, I mean, it's not like it's not like we're asking for anything more than other agencies.
Yeah, and there is a lot of costs that, you know, people are not aware of that it takes to create this business. There's a lot, we can educate you, but I don't even know that people want to know about that. But there's a lot of hidden costs that people are just not aware of, and they look at the cost of one single session and they, you know, and I would too. I'm not placing any judgment there. I'm just saying that I don't have anything to hide. Like if anybody's interested as a patient, I will gladly break it down and explain.
People question the cost of one pack of mushrooms.
The reasoning.
People just question the cost.
Yeah,
of things.
yeah, and that's fair. And people can, you know, they have the right to.
Why do you charge so
But
much?
each person that comes, we would tailor their treatment and their cost would depend on that person's needs. So it's not like everybody pays the same.
How are you planning to market?
Oh gosh, not very difficult to market because we already have 20 people asking on psychology.com alone, can we become your patients? I have people asking me, do you need a nurse? This is by just 2 weeks being on Instagram and Facebook and just advertising that we're opening up. So I don't think it's going to be difficult. I think there's a big need here. I think the biggest obstacle would be the financial. I'm guessing, I don't know. But I don't think it's gonna be difficult for people to find us.
Yeah. On Psychology Today, like I'm like you can just Google sativa and I'm pretty much the only person that comes up.
And
So-
I'm creating a website, which
Yeah.
is not done yet, but my website will be linked and we'll have business cards and we're gonna go out and distribute them.
It's the grand opening.
We don't know yet, but I'm aiming towards late summer, probably early fall at the latest. We're working very hard every day. There's a lot. There's a lot to do.
Yeah, I'm hoping sooner, but we'll see.
Yeah.
But we're not right near, we're not gonna give out the exact location yet, but you can find it. But we're right where the farmer's market is, so we have a lot of traffic.
It's downtown
Yeah.
Troy, yeah, right in the heart of downtown.
Yeah. So,
By the close to the river.
any other questions?
And we'll have a grand opening, so.
Yeah.
We'll advertise that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Awesome. Okay, so yeah. Hi Dennis, how's it going? We talked
Greetings. I'm here.
we talked about activating a Buffalo node for action. So I'm glad you dialed in at least at the end here, where we hope to in the next few months really start creating more local municipal movement. So stay tuned for that.
I'm ready to be a node.
Good, good. All right, well, thank you all for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.
Bye.
Bye.